I'm Michelle and this is Michmash. Today I'm doing my August wrap-up. It was a pretty okay reading month. I had 3 4-star reads and 1 1-star read, but all the books I read were very, very different from each other, so let's get started. The first book I finished was Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I read this over like 2.5 months on an app on my phone that gave you a little bite-sized portion each day to read, but I also have it in physical form. This was the second last Jane Austen that I have left to read, Mansfield Park being the last one, and this one was not my favorite, and now I'm wondering, maybe is that because I read it in that long amount of time and I wasn't able to really get invested in the characters? I'm not sure, but this has always been one that I'm not as a fan of. I was never really into the movie. Me and my friend used to watch it and make fun of it all the time, and so I wasn't really going into this expecting to like it that much. I found that the character development is amazing in this. To see the sisters from where they were at the beginning of the book to where they are at the end is really amazing, and that's the best part of this book for me. The romance, though, it just didn't have that, like, it was like in those movies where they show like a tiny montage and that's the whole amount of falling in love that you get to witness, and it's like, I need more than that. So I don't know, I just thought it was okay. I just thought like it wraps up so quickly at the end, and for not being the shortest novel, it's like, couldn't you have spread that out a little bit more? But obviously it's Jane Austen, it's beautifully written, and it's really awesome, and it was good to finish that one. The second book I finished was The Geography of Nowhere by James Howard Kunstler. This is a non-fiction book. My memory card was full, so I just had to erase some stuff, so sorry if things got changed. Also, the sun just went behind the clouds, so anyway. So my boyfriend and I were reading this for a local book club about urban affairs, and we had an interesting conversation, but the book itself, I was enjoying the first couple chapters. It was about American history, and as I'm Canadian, I know bits and pieces of American history, but not like the whole thing. And I was enjoying reading a comprehensive, what I thought was comprehensive American history. Then I discovered later from talking to people that it was quite a biased history and very selected, I guess, what was talked about, so that was kind of unfortunate. So the first third was quite factual, and the second 2/3 of the book were his opinions. And basically the thesis of the book is that cars ruined America, and that if we didn't have cars, everyone would be safer and more happy. And the reason people like to go to Disneyland and other places like that is because there are no cars. And he just really drove this point home again and again, which was kind of tiresome. And I agree that like places with no cars are nice, but I don't think that modern, like, I just don't agree that modern development is a bad thing. He was calling people stupid, he was calling different kinds of people idiots, and you could just tell he was angry, and I just really didn't like it. But it provided an interesting conversation at the book club, so that was good. It was fun to read this with my boyfriend, and we highlighted parts and just were like laughing basically throughout it. So see if I can find a good quote. This was basically what I felt was his main point in this book. He goes to this, I don't know what to call it. We have a place in Calgary called Heritage Park. It's one of those places where they all dress up like they're in the 1800s, and you can go to like the little candy shop and the barber shop, and yeah, I'm sure everyone has a place like that. This lady asked him, "What do you think of our place?" She asked cheerfully, yet in the manner of someone obviously habituated to playing a role. I didn't want to upset her, but couldn't help blurting out my true feelings. "It makes me ashamed of my civilization," I said. And that's just basically like his whole thesis. He is ashamed of our civilization. He thinks that having cars and having big skyscrapers and modern houses with indoor plumbing is horrible, and I just don't understand. So anyway, the next book I read was A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and I read this with as a buddy read with Amanda from Amanda Center and Butena, who was just a viewer of YouTube, and we had a really good time reading it. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I think that like science fiction isn't really my thing, but this was an easy one to get into. The characters are so interesting, and basically the story is these cast of characters of different species and aliens are on this ship, and they are traveling to a small angry planet to do a job, and basically it's just their interactions with each other. And basically the point of it is though like how the interspecies relationships work, which was really interesting, and it gave us a lot to talk about in our Voxer conversation, which was fun. And since I had never done a buddy read before, it seemed like a good one to start. It was easy to read, really quick. We all liked it quite a lot. Thought it was pretty good, and some LGBTQ representation with aliens and lots of different interesting things to talk about. So I definitely recommend it. I didn't love the ending, but I think maybe it's because there's going to be a second book, and I think it's just 2 books. And so I felt like it didn't wrap things up as much as I would have liked, and some things it wrapped up too quickly, but maybe with a second book it'll continue in a way I like more. But yeah, I read that as an ebook, and I think that in future buddy reads I want to have a physical copy, because I found it really hard with my e-reader at least that I could have highlighted and stuff, but I find it really hard to navigate around my e-reader, so I found it hard to bring up interesting topics that I wanted to talk about later. I should have either kept notes or got a physical copy so I could flag pages and things like that. So just something to keep in mind for future buddy reads. And then the last book I read in August was Signal to Noise by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And I've talked about this a few times in currently readings because I put it down for a little while at the beginning of the month and then picked it up again, which I'm really glad I did because I really enjoyed it. This is a story of a woman named Meche who grew up in Mexico City and left when she was 17 and doesn't go back until she's about 40. And so this story follows when she's 40 and she returns to Mexico City to bury her father, and she is coming into contact again with all these people that she hasn't seen in 20 years. And then it flashes back to when she was a kid, when she was a teenager, and leads up to the point where she left and why. And it was really interesting. She discovers that when she was 15, she discovers that she can do magic when she plays records, and that has a lot of impact and consequences. And so it was partially that, but so much more actually. It was mostly a coming-of-age story, really, and a romance of her and her friend, who they've been best friends their whole lives, I think, or for 10 years or something. And as they become teenagers, they start to realize that they start to have feelings for each other, but they don't realize it, actually. And it's just, you can just see the struggle that they go through, and I never really went through that, and especially not reciprocated, but I could just totally feel for them. And you know, when you're 16, you're going through a lot of stuff and you think you want something and you don't know what you actually want, and it was just charming to read about them. It was a lot more of a romance than I thought it was going to be, but I was okay with it. And the other thing I'm usually not okay with is magical realism, but it was a central part of the story, but also not. And there was a whole chunk of the book where I thought, oh, that must not have been actually real because they haven't talked about it again since. But it was real magic. And as long as you're like going into it being like, yeah, it's real magic, that magic is a thing, and that is okay, then I really recommend this. I give it 4.5 out of 5 actually. I really enjoyed it. I think it was great. I think it was really well written, but it wasn't one that like I necessarily want to read again, I guess. So I'm not giving it 5 stars, but really good. And then because I read that one, it was quite a romance. I had been planning to read Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I mentioned that in the Friday Reads at one point, but then I just decided I was kind of done with romance, so I put that one down. And currently I'm reading The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides on my e-reader, which is really different from what I remember of the movie, at least. I need to watch that movie again after I read the book, but I figured it had such a summery feel to me. I wanted to read it before summer actually ends, but it feels like fall now, so summer has ended pretty much, but I thought I'd sneak that one in there. Then I'm also planning to read in September A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Becky Smith, and Katie from Life Between Words, I will link her channel below, she's hosting a read-along of that book. I read it like 10 years ago probably, and so I've been always wanting to reread that one, so I figured now is a good time. I ordered a used copy online, I haven't received it yet, so hopefully I get it soon so I can take part. And if you haven't read that book yet, you definitely should check it out and maybe join in the read-along. So that is what I'm going to be reading for now, and thank you very much for watching. Bye.